Well, hey everyone, it's Joe Sengel from Fully Funded Life. As you know, we travel the nation, speaking and teaching about the topic of personal finances and small business finances. And during the events, we allow people to ask questions through a functioning platform called Slido. It's a way to ask questions, it's a way to launch polls and get surveys of our audience. And many times we cannot get through all the questions. And so we have taken opportunities to create an episode called If I Had More Time, where I can actually respond to these questions. And guess what? I have some more time. So let's get started with the first question. Is Joe fired up? I am fired up. Get fired up. Thanks for asking. That's awesome. By the way, I think I asked that question at the top, and I always make people thumbs up it to make sure they got into the system correctly. Got another question. Ask anonymously. We got a new house in summer of 2023 with a 7.21 interest rate. How long should we wait for refinancing and lower monthly payments? Well, it's really a math calculation, and I can't answer the question because I don't know what rate you could refinance to. But in general, there is a simple way to calculate how much you could save on a new interest rate. Let's say you had a $200,000 mortgage and you were paying 7.21%. Well, that'd be somewhere around $14,400 in interest that year that you would be paying on that $200,000 mortgage. If you dropped 1 percentage point down to 6.21, you would save 1% of $200,000 balance, about $2,000 in interest, okay? So the way to calculate that is how much is the total cost of the refinance and how many months do you need to go to recover the cost of the refinance? So if it cost you $3,000 to refinance the house to 6.21% and you save $2,000 a year in interest, roughly, then it'll take about a year and a half, about 18 months to be able to make good on that. So if you think you're gonna be in the house longer than 18 months, it could make sense to refi it. And so, of course, if it drops another percent or another 2%, you would want to do the math again. But it all depends on how long you're gonna stay in the house and what the difference is, the delta between the existing interest rate and the new interest rate. Great question. Is renting an apartment a waste of money? Absolutely not, in the right circumstances. And so if we look at people's net worth and how they build wealth, home ownership is a vital component of that for the vast majority of people. Those who never own a home during their lifetime, they miss out on the appreciation of a very large, valuable asset. And so as a result, it can greatly affect their net worth as they move into and through retirement. However, there are many instances in when renting an apartment is a great use of your dollars. There's been times that I've rented an apartment. One was when I moved to an entire new area. When I moved to South Carolina, it was 8 hours away from where I had lived previously. I had never been in South Carolina. I had no idea where I wanted to live. I didn't know that I would like the job. And so we rented an apartment. We lived in that apartment for about 6 months. There's been another time that I've rented an apartment, and that's when I was moving and was considering, hey, where am I going to live again? I lived in that one for about 8 months that time. So there are moments in time when renting an apartment is perfect. There are many people who have had the home ownership dream and now they've moved into retirement and they didn't get the house paid off, but they sold it. They put the equity to work elsewhere. They have fixed income and they have this fixed rent, and it allows them to just know exactly what the cost will be. There are no surprise expenses as far as repairs. They don't have to mow or maintain a lawn, and it can be a great thing for their lifestyle. Of course, there is the risk that the rent can go up substantially and they have no control of that. However, I would not just carte blanche say renting an apartment is a waste of money. Great question. How much money should I invest in a car on repairs, bought used, no payments, before just buying a new used car? This is a really, really valid question. Many times, people get so sick of the car breaking down that after paying $200 one month for a repair and then $1,000 this month for a repair, they just throw up their hands and say, I'm gonna buy a brand new vehicle. But I always do the evaluation of saying, hey, if I put these dollars into this car, what is the likelihood that it will help me continue to operate this car for the next year, 2 years, 3 years. So I remember my truck, 1997 GMC 1500, in about 2002, it started having transmission problems. And the transmission broke, which was very, very, very frustrating. And so I had to do the math. And I remember it cost somewhere around $1,900 back then to get a brand new transmission. But I said, hey, I think this is a one-off issue, and I think I can get this fixed, and I'll be able to continue to drive it with no debt. And I repaired that transmission. I think it finally broke in about 2006. It's about 5 years of weird shifting that I put up with before finally it was just toast. And so 2006, I've drove it for 17, 18 years now, and that thing still runs. And so it's a balancing act. You have to look at it and say, what is the value of this vehicle? Because I can tell you today, if the transmission broke on it now, the value of the vehicle isn't even $1,900. And I bet you a transmission would cost me $3,500. So I'm not fixing it today. But way back when it was a 5-year-old vehicle, it made sense to fix it. Is it worth it to use brokers like Morgan Stanley that take 1% of profits? I will just use the words of Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett says you cannot outrun fees. And so for me, I just cannot, because I have a passion for investing and paying attention to my financial investments. I'm not giving up 1% on that. I'm just not going to do it. But if you don't want to pay attention to it and you trust the person that's managing it for you, and you use them, you go meet with them at least once or twice a year to earn, so that they really have to earn that 1%, then it allows you to outsource that knowledge. Maybe you don't have a passion for checking your investments on the regular basis and making decisions that way. And so, but I will just say Warren Buffett says you would do better to just invest in an S&P 500 index fund that charges you not 1%, not 0.1%, but something like 0.03%. And so the average American would do well to just invest in an S&P 500 if they're out in that 5-year window that we teach here at Fully Funded Life. Investment: build a tiny house on extra land on my property and rent. Get fired up. Tiny houses are all the rage. Absolutely. You don't have to deal with humans, and it's going to be short-term rentals maybe. A lot of people love to rent it for a weekend. If you have something that's a neat feature, like it's in the woods, it's on a creek, it's on a lake, that can be an added benefit. But tiny houses are all the rage, and I cannot believe the amount people are able to charge for people to live in very complex, tight quarters. By the way, my question is this my daughter asking the question? Because she's 24 and she wants to build a tiny house. How do I save money if I'm young? The same way you save it if you're old. You make it your habit. You prepare a budget, put giving first and saving second, and hold to it. Do not allow the wanter to spend money on things to erase your ability to give or save. Make that your habit now. You'll be able to do it all your life, and your older self will thank your younger self for doing so. What are the must-knows about investing? Because it's scary when you barely have any income. It's scary when you have income, is what I would tell you. What I would tell you the must-knows are that if you do not invest, there will be no harvest. And so I would start with the basics. Put money in a basic S&P 500 index fund and just do it consistently, even if it's $5 a month, and seek to grow it from there. Put it within the bounds of a retirement plan, an IRA or a Roth IRA, so you get the tax advantages. You will see it start to grow. It might shrink a little bit in short periods of time, but over time, history has proven that can be a fantastic, phenomenal way to really set yourself up for the future. Hey, thank you so much for asking questions. We love being able to answer your questions, and I hope you'll join us the next time for another If I Had More Time Q&A. Get fired up and go live your fully funded life. Hey everybody, Joe Sangl here. Thanks so much for watching this video. Hey, I encourage you to click the links that are provided to watch a lot of more helpful content that'll help you live your fully funded life. Thanks for being a part of our community.